Welcome back, everybody. It's Tony George, along with my buddy Griffin Murphy, both in Las Vegas, back in town from the big KC right there. My Royals showing up, his White Sox, but we're talking football. Of course, your Bears showed up last night against my Chiefs
Damn right they did.
and
Damn right they did.
give us a little butt whipping. Welcome back to the 2024 edition of the Gridiron Six Pack. And of course, we're from DocSports.com. And the Gridiron Six Pack last year was an epic run. We're going to give you the reason we called it six packs. We give you 3 college and 3 NFL games each and every week throughout the season. Sometime into the playoffs, we had about 108 games last year, and we hit 68% of them, Griff. And of course, the benchmark is kind of high, buddy. But nonetheless, I think we're gonna shoot for 60% and try and exceed that and get them going here. We're gonna open up this show with some futures picks, but real quick, before we get to them, how's your summer been?
Tony, summer's been great. Baseball has been phenomenal. Props have been murdering, kicking ass and taking names. We are flying right now. But I've got to say, let alone the summer, let's talk about the environment in Las Vegas. I mean, we've got Circa Survivors. We've got Circa Millions. I'll be meeting you tonight at Circa to go and throw some shenanigans out. We've got chaos around the map. All morning, I've been listening to Tim Tebow's halftime speech rolling in the national championship. We're back in football season, back in motion. I'm jacked up as all hell. I'm ready to go, Tony. How about you? How's your summer been going, and how about the ride in?
Well, the ride in was good on the old Southwest Airlines. The whole plane's first class, as far as I'm concerned. But I'm back in Vegas for football season for a while. I'll be back and forth. I'm having an epic baseball season, a record-setting baseball season.
Ridiculous.
Up almost 18 grand for a $100 player this year, 92 units to the good. And now I want to roll that momentum into football this year. Made some changes like I did in baseball. Here we are this morning. I did a podcast down at Circa for the contest weekend. I'm doing VEASAN tonight down at Circa while Griff waits at the Mega Bar for me with a cold one in hand, ready to hand it to me when I get off stage. It's like a rock concert. When I come off stage, I have my handler hand me a cocktail right away. And that's going to be Griff Murphy night. So if you're in town this weekend, we'll be down there Saturday as well, taping this on Friday. And what we're going to do this show, folks, we're going to give you some futures bets, some season win totals, maybe division winners, college and pro football. And of course, college football kicks off this weekend, Griff, with kind of a lackluster card. Nothing to get overly excited about, except for the fact there's going to be college football on TV through 2025 now. And I'm fired up. And we're going to be talking about some college football season win totals, this, that, and the other. And I know you were directing your attention towards the SEC and others. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to let you, since you're the young cat, you're the young Skywalker, I'm the Master Yoda. I'm going to drop the ball, top spin volley, lob that right into your court for you get to make the first pick of the year on the Gridiron Six Pack.
Let's do it, Tony. Let's jump right into it, man. And we're going to jump right into the Washington Huskies. This is not, let me break it down for everybody, the same Washington Huskies team that we are going to be watching that we seen last season. The current season win total is at 6.5. Last season, I believe they finished regulation with 10 wins. This season, going in, they lost half of their team from last season. Jed Fish takes over as head coach from Arizona. He's brought along 12 players of his own from Arizona. He had to go to the portal on top of that to fill in missing gaps that are still unknown with their capabilities, especially rolling in now to the Big Ten. This, for me, looking at this Washington Huskies team right now, this is a full rebuild season for Washington. Jed, he was signed to a 7-year, $7 million contract. He's looking at how he can turn this team around in years to come. So you're jumping from Pac-12 to Big Ten and Washington. You got Will Rogers taking over opposed to Michael Penix. So Michael Penix, we already know he's with Atlanta. He's shoving it. What a season he had, hands down, tip cap off to the kid. Absolutely outstanding. So now what the ridiculous take is Will Rogers going to be the guy? One thing that I'm going to look at right now is, did Arizona, they brought over Jonah Coleman one of their top rushers. This guy had 870 yards last season on the ground. So that's definitely a bonus for this team. But Washington, Tony, has a crazy schedule, man. They've got to roll into at Rutgers. Then they've got Michigan at home. Then they've got to go to Iowa. We know what happens in Iowa. It's chaos. Nobody could score, for Christ's sake. Then they've got to go to Indiana. Then they've got USC coming home. And despite the fact that Caleb Williams is gone, head coach Lincoln Riley did do a phenomenal job this offseason in the portal and has a phenomenal track record when it comes to developing outstanding quarterbacks. On top of that, they've also got to deal with Penn State, and then they're at home against UCLA. Then lastly, Oregon. So who right now looks like this looks like an extremely tough schedule for me. Looking at this entire outlook of this schedule, Washington is getting thrown into the wolves in this first new series, brand new college atmosphere. Now they're in the Big Ten. Total over under 6.5 wins. Give me the total under 6.5 wins with the Washington Huskers this season at -120. I think this team's going to end up at a 6-6 ratio, if not 5-7. Not much better, Tony. So rolling into this right now, give me the under. That's going to be my play. But I want to shift gears here really quick because everybody knows Tony loves his Nebraska Cornhuskers. And coming into this season, their totals is currently at 7.5 wins at a -125 line. Tony, Nebraska, they're coming off a season where they went 5-7 last year. They've got a new head coach. They've got some new faces on the field. How you feeling about this one, brother?
Well, this is Matt Rule's second year, but remember, it takes him 2 or 3 years to get the ball rolling at Temple. And then at Baylor. And then he goes to the pros, gets his ass handed to him. And then he comes back to college. He takes over Nebraska. He embraced the culture. He made some strides. The one thing that with Nebraska over the past 7 or 8 years under Mike Riley and Scott Frost was there was no player development. Now with Matt Rule, there's been player development. Let me run this by you. They had 5 wins last year. This is with my head and not my heart. They had 5 wins last year, and out of their losses, 5 of them were by 1 score or less. They lost to Colorado last year, and they sacked the quarterback 8 times in that game. They were 3rd best in the country at sacking the quarterback. The problem is they had 7 turnovers in the game. Nebraska was dead last in turnovers in college football. They were 2nd to last in college football in red zone offense. They were 3rd to last in college football in field goal percentage, and yet they still won 5 games. Now, Nebraska pulled off the biggest coup in recruiting history by taking Dylan Raiola from Georgia, a 5-star athlete whose dad is a Nebraska legend, a Remington Award winner as an offensive line player for Nebraska. And he comes in. They've got a wide receiver from Wake Forest that was all AAC. They took one from Texas. They have one returning that was a 5-star recruit that got injured the first game last year. Fedoni is one of the best tight ends in the country. He's going to be first team Big Ten tight end this year. 6'6", 4.6 speed, can come down with the ball in traffic, and he can make yards after the catch. Can anybody say Travis Kelce out loud? They are loaded with talent, albeit young talent on offense. The reason why I like the over 7.5 wins is not because I'm an alumni. You know, basically I went there to a 4-year school at Nebraska for 6 years, got a 2-year degree, but I know me some football when I see it. Their schedule is very reasonable, very manageable. They open up with UTEP, which is like 3rd power rated worst in all of college football. By the way, if they don't win that game, they can fire Matt Rule right now. Okay. Then they come out with Northern Iowa. Then they got a bad Illinois team. Then they got a bad Purdue team at Purdue, their first road game. Then the big game for them, they have Colorado in there. Second game, Neon Dion, hit the trail, baby. You're done. You're going to see how far he ran that program into the ground as soon as Nebraska. They barely got by Nebraska last year, and we gave them 7 turnovers. Now, the big game is October 5th. Rutgers is a team, Griff, in the Big Ten that's flying under the radar. I'm not saying they're going to contend for a Big Ten title, but what I am telling you is this is a team that if you don't bring your A game, Greg Schiano and his crew, they're going to give you a ball game. You better bring your A game. You were talking about Washington earlier. Think about that road trip for Washington. From Washington to New Jersey. They never made a road trip like that in their life. Brand new conference. Yeah, that's going to be a loss for them. This is one here, though. They get them in Lincoln, and then they get a bye week, and they get Indiana. Conceivably, they could be 7-0, but I'm not that optimistic. I think they might be 6-1. They're going to slip and fall somewhere.
Sure.
But last year, they had 5 game-winning drives in their hand, and they went 0 for 5 with penalties, turnovers, and missed field goals. I think they shore that up. Are they ready for prime time? Is this the Nebraska of old where they were just steamrolling people like Alabama and Georgia when they were doing it in the mid-90s, winning national titles like they were stupid and nobody could stop them, and they just reload talent when they lose everybody like Georgia is this year, like Alabama has done? No, they're not that Nebraska. But this is a bowl team, and I think they get to 8 wins. I'm taking the over 7.5. With Huskers, that's around -125. Worth a little bit more than pizza money, but we're not putting grandma's bonds on it. So we're going to switch gears and get back to Griffin, your third and final college football pick here on the futures market for everybody, Griff.
Yep, Tony, and you know I'm rolling with the Alabama Crimson Tide, baby. So I want to jump right into this right now, and I want to tell you guys, I don't love their actual over 9.5 win total. That is what the current line is, but I did find some value in a futures bet for everybody. But I want to give my breakdown to everybody on why I'm taking this pick, and then we'll roll from there. So as everybody knows, legendary Nick Saban, he is no longer the coach for Alabama. Will this team be the same dynasty that we've been watching for decades? I'm going to say no, but we shall see. I do have to say, I love the move bringing in Kalen DeBoer from Washington. Coach of the year coming off a 14-1 dominant season, losing in the national championship to Michigan. He's bringing in the same mentality that this Alabama team thrives around, and that is winning. DeBoer, he has an overall college football record in his lifetime, 104-12, which is absolutely outstanding. Here's the thing. He's not coaching at Washington anymore, and he doesn't have Michael Penix as a quarterback. Do I like where he is at the quarterback spot? Absolutely. He has a very reliable quarterback who's very fast on his feet, but he hasn't been that consistent and proven to be consistent when it comes to throwing the ball in the air. Did he do it towards the second half of last season? Yes, he did. But we need to see a full season out of that before I can put my faith into him. Turned it around. Now going even deeper. They do, Bama, have some issues in the secondary as well as on their pass rush. So that's why I do not love the season win total. You know, they're going to be in a very, very tough conference, and there's a lot of teams on that schedule that are really hit or miss, can bounce back and forth, especially with Saban no longer being your reliable coach where you know, regardless halftime what the score is, he's going to get the entire team fired up, juiced as all hell, ready to go for the second half. So I did find some value in their conference win title. Here's my matchups. Georgia at home. I see that as a loss. Rolling into Vanderbilt. That's a win. Rolling into South Carolina, Spencer Rattler, he's gone now. He's with the Saints. So they've got a redshirt freshman with Lenora Sellers taking over at the helm. So we still need to see what this kid's capable of doing. So I take that as a win. I think Bama rolls over South Carolina. Going deeper, now you've got Tennessee. I think that's going to be a loss. Tennessee's going to be the real deal this year. Then LSU. LSU is a team that does always play them tough. But Bama is 8-2 in their last 10 against them and has beaten them 4 straight games. On top of that, Malik Neighbors is gone and Daniels is gone. Their best receiver and obviously their star quarterback. So now lastly, you've got Mizzou. I think Mizzou is going to be a hell of a team this season. I am very excited to see what Brady Cook can bring to the table with this club going into this season. And then finally, I believe Oklahoma, I think that's a victory. All 5 of their starting offensive linemen are gone. Gabriel's gone. But Bama's biggest weakness, as I mentioned, is their pass rush. So that one's kind of a flippy game. And then obviously you have your Auburn team. Auburn always plays Bama pretty consistent. They play them pretty tough, but Bama has taken them down 4 times in a row. These two teams, they do always go war to war. This is a rivalry matchup in my eyes, but give me the win there. So my pick right here is giving me the conference win total for Bama at over 5.5 wins in this thing. I can see them going 6-4 or 6-4 in conference, or 5-4 in conference, something along those lines, even 4-4. But I like the over in this one, Tony. But enough. Go ahead, Tony.
Interesting. Texas switches conference where
Yep.
they kind of dominated the Big 12. Now they go to the SEC the very first year, and their season win total is higher than Alabama, mighty Alabama. I'm
Yep.
just saying, I think expectations might be a little bit high. We talked about the differential in the road trips in the Big Ten with the Washingtons and
For
the
sure.
USCs and the UCLAs going out and playing where it's 20 degrees in November. They're not playing at Palo Alto and Berkeley and all these places. Same thing goes for Texas going to the SEC. Now you're pissing in the tall wheat with the big dogs. You
Right.
wanted the best, now you got the best. And I'm not sold on you as a quarterback, and I'm not sold on Sarkisian being able to win a big game yet, because tell me when he has. Bottom line. Man, I'm saying that as an observation. The other thing too, I just wanted to mention to everybody, keep an eye on Ole Miss in the SEC this year. Let me tell you something. Lane Kiffin did as good as anybody in the transfer portal with immediate impact players, and Dart is back at quarterback. Basically, the entire offense is intact. We'll see if Lane Kiffin can call some games this year, because that team is stacked. The SEC is stacked. And of course, Georgia sits on top of the mountain, as we all know. But I think it's going to be an interesting year with these quote unquote super conferences, Griff.
Sure.
With the Big Ten and the SEC, they're probably going to comprise 7 or 8 teams in the 12 team playoff. But it's going to be interesting to see how they adjust to playing in different stadiums and making different road trips than they've been used to forever. So that's just
it's definitely, Tony, going to be a gigantic stretch. And, you know, we've talked about this throughout the weeks, and that is the main concern, is these teams traveling from location to location where they've never played before. They've never seen this type of scenario. You're going into the SEC, dog. You're going into the big boys. This is where it's at right now. So I love the take on it, Tony. I love the initial analysis, as well as where these teams traveling. People don't realize how much it really is to be used to traveling to one location and playing there year in, year out, mainly from a coaching standpoint. Now these players are all coming into this, and it's all hell breaks loose. But enough of that being said on college football. Tony, let's shift gears right into the NFL. And we're going to kick off with, Tony, we've got the Atlanta Falcons, and this team, they're starting to look good now. You know, they're set up at that quarterback spot. They've got some new receivers, including my old-time Bear, Darnell Mooney, who I think is going to make a pretty good impact with this club. Tony, does this team make a push with the current win total at 8.5 wins?
There's 3 teams I like this year that I think are under the radar screen. I think the Rams, which we'll talk about later. I think also the Arizona Cardinals, believe it or not.
Yes.
And the Atlanta Falcons. Let me ask you a question. What's Kirk Cousins done wherever he's been? Wins games, period. The Minnesota Vikings right now banked everything on J.J. McCarthy. Now they're stuck with Sam Darnold. They couldn't wait to get rid of Kirk Cousins. You're going to be begging for this guy 8 games into the season. He wins football games. I know the knock on him is he can't win the big game. Who gives a rat's ass? I'm looking at 8.5 wins. He can give you 9 or 10 wins every year, no matter where. He did it at Washington when they had nothing. Trust me, this guy can flat out play quarterback. He makes all the throws. Guess who his backup is? All-world Michael Penix. They may figure out a way to get him in the game, for all I know. So guess what? 1-2 punch at running back with Robinson, second year. all world. They got a 1-2 punch at running back. You mentioned Mooney, the receiving core. They got Pitts at tight end. They had a good defense last year that kept them in games. They got a new coaching regime. I like their chance, and they're in a win. They're in a gettable division, Griff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'll take them over 8.5 wins. The Dirty Birds this year. That's minus about 140-ish right now. It's a little chalky. It's juiced up. There's a reason why. Dirty Bird's going to make a little noise this year. Switch gears and get back to Griff Murphy. We didn't script the show, so I have no idea who you're going to talk about here. But NFL is here, the preseason. Last game this weekend, and we're ready to go. Early September. The season kicks off, by the way, with I could not get through the show, Griff, without mentioning my beloved Kansas City Chiefs.
Of course.
You know, you guys gave us a little butt whipping last night in the preseason game on that Thursday.
I'm going to go to that next.
Nonetheless, I'm fired up for another football season. The storyline, whether the Chiefs can three-peat. The other storyline is whether the Chicago Bears, your boys, last night, they got the number 1 pick in the draft. They got the number 9 pick in the draft. One of Penix's receivers last year, all-world wide receiver. They already had DJ Moore. You're excited for this year as well.
Oh, yeah, Tony. I mean, you already alley-ooped me here, brother. I'm breaking down the Chicago Bears here, my man. And here we roll. Chicago Bears, baby. Offense completely stacked. New offensive coordinator, thank God. Shane Waldron's going to be taking over as the OC, and he has worked with talented quarterbacks. He was with Russell Wilson back in Seattle when they were actually legit, as well as Geno Smith. He brought them to a winning season. This guy has won. And now let's go over the Chicago Bears offense. QB spot, Caleb Williams. Running back spot, Swift. Wide receiver 1, we've got, or 2, 1 and 2. We've got Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. Then speed on speed with Rome Odunze out of Washington. Hell of a season this kid had, and he's proven himself to be it right now throughout preseason. Even Keenan Allen in a post-game conference, they talked about him. He said, this kid is better than I was when I started. I see this kid going very far in the NFL. Watching him throughout his plays, how fast he is, his ability at that NFL level, I love what I'm seeing there at the wide receiver spot. I mean, we got the trio there. Then tight end, Cole Kmet. Then we've got Jared Everett out of Los Angeles. Those are 2 stacked tight ends. Offensive line could actually be not that big of an issue, although that is right now our biggest weakness. But you have to understand, because of how dynamic this Bears receiving core is, Williams is so fast on his feet. This is going to give him more time to move up in the pocket, along with you have these speedster and veteran receivers who are going to give him more time to get open, to give him a chance, obviously, to throw the long ball. So the Bears offense right now looks absolutely stacked. And then on the defensive side, Jalen Johnson at corner, absolute stud. Linebackers, we've got Edmonds and Edwards. Our rush attack seems like it's going to be absolutely outstanding on the defensive side. With a current win total at 8.5, the Bears in my eyes right now, and I know I'm jumping the gun here, but in the NFC North, I think their only competition is Detroit. And I have to say on top of that, Jared Goff with Detroit, I can never see this guy being that much of a reliable quarterback. He's either going to give you his A game where he's 23 for 28 completion rating, something along those lines, even more. They like to throw the ball a lot. You got Gibbs in the backfield. But having said that, I can't rely on this guy. But obviously it is still early, so we're not going to jump the gun. But I want to top all of this off with the Bears. They don't have a tough schedule this year. They've got 3 to 4 teams that are actually tough. Other than that, I see all victories. The Rams are going to be tough. Houston's going to be tough. Green Bay should be tough. I'm not sold on this whole Jordan Love scenario where everybody's all over the map with this guy like he's the next Tom Brady, for Christ's sake. He's good. He did what he was needed to do, but he ain't that good. And I think it's going to be exposed this year. Then on top of that, you've got Detroit, who I just broke down, who I'm just so not sold on, but sold on. It's the quarterback spot that scares me for Detroit. So Bears season win total, 8.5. Give me the over, Tony. Rolling into our last game. We've got the Los Angeles Rams. We've got Matthew Stafford at the helm. You know, the Rams, they have that explosive offense rolling in again. Their defense was the issue last year, and that's what separated this team from being the best to one of the best. If they had one of that dominant defenses, this team, because of the dynamic of their speed on the offensive side of the ball, when you've got Cooper, you've got Puka, I mean, these boys are running. So, Tony, looking at the Rams this season, what are your thoughts?
9-win team. 9-win team. That's why they're minus 160. It's a 9-win team. Sean McVay did his best coaching job of his career last year. They were left for dead on the side of the road like a dog turd in a cantaloupe patch, as I like to say. You know what? All they did was win games and get in the postseason. I like that. This Williams at running back is a breakout star. They've got backups galore. Tyler Higbee is one of the better tight ends in the league. Matt Stafford still could chuck the rock. Cooper Kupp, Nakua. He came out of nowhere last year, one of the #1 fantasy picks on the planet this year. They're going to move the ball up and down the field. They'll improve that defense. I think that division, I think Arizona is going to be better. I think Seattle's going to be the doormat. And I think San Francisco might be overrated. Yep, I'm just telling you, they gave San Francisco all they wanted. And
I'm not going to disagree with that, frame.
Give me the over with the 8.5. Lay the 160 small. That's a pizza money bet. Yeah, that's the Gridiron 6-pack for this week, Griff. Folks, we're going to broadcast each and every Wednesday. We're going to be doing our shows on Wednesday. This is a special. We'll start the first week of the NFL. There will be a week go by here in college. If you want the college bets, just get to DocSports.com. We give you a free $60. There's a link tab on the website. Park it in any new account. Get hooked up with Griff's package, my package. Jump on board for the rest of baseball. And Griff, by the way, let's not forget to tell everybody, the prop market is very fruitful in the NFL as well.
Yes, it is, Tony. As we've broken this down a tremendous amount of times, the market, it's very hard for them to calculate how they're going to do on individual players. They're much so more wholesome on how a team is going to perform overall. So there's always a leak inside of there, and you could fill those gaps. So, ladies and gentlemen, most definitely be ready. As Tony smashes his baseball MLB props, I know he's huge. I'm huge in the MLB prop market. We're both planning on turning that right into the NFL season, ladies and gentlemen.
DocSports.com. That's where you find Griff Murphy. That's where you find Tony George. And you can find us every Wednesday right here on Doc's YouTube channel. Be sure and tune into the weekly podcast. We'll be giving you 6. We'll give you 6 picks. We're going to try and give you, well, last year we were 7 out of 10. Every time we put out 10. We're going to see if we can keep up that pace. And don't forget, during the NFL season, I threw in some teasers that went 80% against the spread last year. When we tossed them in there, we're going to have some fun. We're going to make some money. He's Griffin Murphy. I'm Tony George. Thanks for tuning in.